You're having a good day. Going to share with you some thoughts about how to restart your day, how to put things back in perspective. And I'm laughing because just about 30 seconds before I went on to start streaming, I knocked all the shit off my desk and toppled that picture behind me off the wall. I joke with folks all the time. I'm a slow learner with a high pain tolerance, and that is an unfortunate statement about what my spiritual growth has been. I am amazed at my ability to get in my own way and to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. I've come to view life as a series of ongoing adjustments, and I'm going to share some of the lessons that I've learned the hard way in hopes that maybe they'll be helpful to you. That's always my biggest goal as a therapist, as a coach, and particularly as a supervisor. I always want to come from a place of humility and say to the people I serve and the people that work for me, here are some of the huge mistakes that I've made, so maybe you don't have to make them. So today's topic is how to restart your day. And I think it's an important lesson. It's one that I struggled to learn. And it's one that most everybody that I've ever known, especially in the first couple of years of recovery, has a hard time with this one. If you're in recovery and your day's kind of gone to shit in the first hour or so, you might find that you're just like, well, this day is just going to suck. I just have to get through it. There's really nothing I can do. It's an extension of black and white thinking, but it's a great example of how we get in our own way. It's a great example of how self-defeating we are sometimes, how self-limiting we are. And I like the analogy, I think about it literally, getting out of my own way. Like, how do I do that? So, years and years ago, I was working, I had a really strange gig. I was doing mental health therapy with people that were going through rehab, which is a really strange thing to do. I kind of wanted folks to just focus on their recovery, just be safe, get through detox, get the basics down, and then later on, let's talk about your mental health. But unfortunately, the rehab I was working peripherally with was not a real healthy place. So the folks were coming to me, I think, to get a reality check and to get a little bit of reassurance that they were going to be okay, even though the system that they were going through was really broken. Met amazing people. It's one of my favorite things to share with people who aren't familiar with recovery or aren't connected to folks in long-term recovery. The most amazing people in the world. Incredible. So one of those people was a brilliant young man, incredibly self-destructive, and he came to see me one day and said, I'm stuck inside my own head, I can't get out. And I offered him a bunch of different suggestions, tried to engage him in a bunch of different conversations, and really nothing worked. And it happened to be the middle of winter, and out of frustration, because I was just watching him dig his heels in. No, everything sucks. My attitude sucks. Today sucks. And I just got to get through it. So out of almost desperation, I said to him, it's about 10 degrees outside and the snowbanks are really high. So what I'm going to do is offer to take you outside and I'm going to put you face first into one of those snowbanks. And I guarantee you, whatever you're stuck in your head about, it's going to go away. You're going to have exactly two thoughts. The first one is, this is really fucking cold. And the second one is, I need to do horrible things to Jim. And he kind of chuckled, but almost immediately, being a good alcoholic, went back to just having a really shitty attitude and being stuck. So my higher power provides these moments of inspiration. I just scanned my bookcase real quick, and I took down a copy of the Tao Te Ching. If you're not familiar with it, the Tao Te Ching is a collection of 79 poems written by a man named Lao Tzu about 2,500 years ago. And I think it's a great book. I think Taoism has incredible value. I think people tend to misunderstand it. It's so simple that it's actually hard to understand. Taoism is not a religion. In truth, it's not really even a philosophy. It's a bit of a guide, I think, to how we can live in harmony with other people, with nature. It's kind of hard to do right now, given that the world is a giant dumpster fire. But the key, according to the Tao, as I perceive it, is that living in harmony with others and accepting life on life's terms is having some degree of harmony with self. And so when I'm walking around with a bad attitude, when I'm spewing hate and discontent, I really obviously am being my own worst enemy. I'm conflicted, and I'm definitely going to get in my own way. So I grab a copy of the book, I hand it to my friend, and I say, just open the book randomly and read one of the poems. And the thing about Lao Tzu's writing is it's annoying. It's written in riddles, and what it means to you is what it means to you. And so he studied the poem for a couple of minutes, and I said, okay, explain to me what it means. And we proceeded to have this really great conversation about what it means to live in harmony and how unnatural so many of the things that we do are. And that conversation spanned for about 20 minutes. And when we were done with that, I said, okay, now how do you feel? And he said, well, I feel great. And I said, okay, let's look at what happened. You took your mind off of this thing that you were obsessing about. You moved away from the idea that like everything just has to suck today. And you gave your brain a chance to shift and just change perspective. And I've learned a lot about that, and I've learned that there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of people near and dear to me in recovery do it through gratitude lists. There's this intimate connection between your attitude and gratitude. And some of the old-timers that I've known and loved in AA would simply say, what are you grateful for today? And it's a way of kind of shifting your awareness from the things that suck or are disappointing and moving them towards, what's good. What are you blessed with? What do you have going for you? And that in and of itself is a nice shift. So let's get back to Taoism. A very clever man named Benjamin Hoff studied Taoism for years and years and years. And he noticed a really cool coincidence? No. Similarity. He noticed a very strong similarity between the writings of Lao Tzu and the writings of A.A. Milnes, the man who wrote the original Winnie the Pooh series. And so he goes on in his book, entitled The Tao of Pooh, to describe Taoism through the characters of Winnie the Pooh. This is a badass book. I guess the biggest recommendation I could give for it is that the cover to that book is tattooed on my left shoulder. It's brilliant, and it explains all of the concepts in ways that are not only simple but also very practical and applicable. So, the story that I usually tell is the story from Winnie the Pooh of Busy Back Soon. So, Christopher Robin was expecting to have Pooh and Piglet over for company, but he was very preoccupied. He had a lot of things to get done. He knew that Pooh might arrive at his home before he got back, and so he left a note on the door that said, "Busy back soon." But the note was hastily written, and there was no space between the words. So what should have said, "Busy back soon," instead to Pooh read as "Busy back soon." And Pooh, of course, being a bear of very little brain, could not reason what is a busy back soon. And he came to the conclusion that it must be a very bad and scary thing. And in truth, Pooh is right. Busy back soon is a way in which I have lived a very high percentage of my life. It is a great way for me to get in my own way. I have found that I have a wonderful addiction to pushing my own limits, to constantly striving and doing just one more thing. And it's so easy for me to justify this because I get to do a whole lot of stuff that I love doing. And so I want to do more and more. I'm a good addict. I get to do things that I love, so let's do more of those. But of course, when I don't respect my own limits, when I don't set boundaries with myself, things become unsustainable and unmanageable pretty quickly. So this is a way in which I would do well to simply take pause, just stop, just breathe, just pray, just reach out to a friend. And whenever I do that, things get better in a hurry. And whenever I don't, things get pretty squirrely pretty fast. Would love to hear your experiences, by the way, and would really welcome any questions that you have. Please just drop me a note. Thank you to those who have already done so. You're right, Adam Daniels. The Tao of Piglet, or actually the Tao of Piglet is the next book in the series, and it is also awesome. Rosie, so good to hear from you. I miss you, my dear. It's good to hear from you. Holly, thank you. Dumpster fire is very much where the world is at today. And you know what's funny about that? It is a giant dumpster fire, and yet I am weirdly okay. I am doing well. And I think there's a very simple reason for that. I have a lot of experience wrestling with powerlessness, and what I have learned over and over and over again is that I cannot win a fight that I have with me. When I don't accept powerlessness, I put a lot of time and energy and thought and emotion into things that I can do absolutely nothing about. And instead, I can surrender to my higher power. I was fucked up about that for a lot of years. Can I trust my higher power to take care of the things that I can't? Well, it occurred to me at some point that whether I trust my higher power or not, I still can't do a damn thing about it. So I literally have nothing to lose by asking the universe to take care of things. And that has worked extraordinarily well for me. I try sometimes to imagine the patience that my higher power has with me, and I can't really wrap my head around it. If it was me, I'd have given up on me a long time ago. My favorite thing about my higher power is I can screw it up 500 times and I'm still going to get another chance, and we're going to keep doing it till I get it right. So let's go back to the characters from Pooh. According to Taoism, Pooh represents the uncarved block, full of potential, and most importantly, Pooh is completely in the moment. Pooh's not worried about tomorrow. He's not regretting his past. He's connected to himself, to his friends, and to nature. And like any animal, he does what is completely natural to do. Human beings, by contrast, we do a lot of unnatural shit. So what I've learned, again, is to do what is natural is to take care of myself and those close to me. To eat good food, to exercise and drink water, and to do all of the basics, because that's what ensures that I get to avoid burnout, I get to have a life that is relatively healthy and sustainable, and it makes it possible for me to do all of the things that I consider to be so important. I think too many of us are Tiggers. I have been guilty of this a lot. Tigger is... usually we refer to ourselves as being really ADHD. We're trying to do 10 things at once. We're trying to multitask, and we're most often screwing up everything. The idea that we could just do one thing and do it well and see it through to completion doesn't really appeal to us. I think we find that when we are doing things in a way that's very manageable, we have a greater awareness of ourselves and our emotions, and that's the very thing that we're trying to block, which again is completely unnatural. But as long as we stay really, really, really busy, there's no time for introspection. There's no time for taking stock and noticing what still hurts, what's still missing in my life, what do I need to add. And most commonly, if you're anything like me, or if you work in the healing and helping professions, you stay crazy in a really super honorable way, which is you do for others and not for yourself. And that, to me, is just the most common way in which we avoid ourselves. Some of us are Eeyores. Eeyores are frustrating people. I get it. Your tail fell off and your house fell down and you just don't know what you're even going to do. And the pitfall of self-pity is always available. It's not something that I've ever found satisfying, but I do it sometimes. Eeyores are typically, people that we see as being depressed. What we don't see is that quite often Eeyores are people that have a tendency to redirect anger and hurt feelings at themselves. We reject ourselves because we feel rejected by others. We're uncomfortable expressing anger or letting people know that what they do hurt us, and so we punish ourselves for being hurt. Some of us are piglets. I have a lot of compassion for piglets. Piglets are super anxious people. They're just convinced that there are shoes, they will be dropping, and we just have to sit on the edge of our seat and prepare for it. Preparation, in my experience, is a total mindfuck. As near as I can tell, and this is especially true for people in recovery, when we get tired of waiting for the shoe to drop, what we do is we start throwing shoes. It's like we're just going to keep pushing the envelope or pushing people away. We're going to keep writing scripts and just trying to provoke whatever the thing that we fear is. We have this mindset of like, okay, let's just do this shit and get it over with. Like, it has to suck. It's going to suck sooner or later, so I might as well do it now. The idea that any other possibility could exist is really foreign to us. We readily adopt self-fulfilling prophecies. I often say to my clients, I think a big part of success happens when we stop predicting that we're going to fail. But piglets are very fearful people, and ideally they learn to express their fears to others in a way that is healthy. They allow themselves to receive reassurance, and maybe they come to the place that I got to spiritually, which is my faith dictates that everything's going to be okay. It does not tell me when or how, only that it will be. And the more I choose to be aware of what the things that happen in my life and the things that happen for me spiritually, not only can I see in retrospect that things have always been okay sooner or later, if I continue to reach out and do the next right thing, not only are they okay sooner or later, but shortly after that, they're going to be better than they've ever been. There is always an opportunity. There is always a lesson for me to learn spiritually. Just about a week after the start of COVID, when we finally started to understand what this was, somewhere around mid-March, I just started praying, and I said, I know that there are opportunities here. I know that there are lessons for me to learn here. And I am hell-bent that the silver lining of what I have to go through is going to be spiritual growth. It has to be. I've already been through way too much shit. I've been through enough shit for 3 or 4 lifetimes. And so if I have to go through some more challenges, I'm going to make damn sure that I learn some things from it, that I make some new connections to the people that my higher power puts in my path. And I can't do any of that stuff if I'm in my own way. So I'm checking in with people. I'm asking for accountability. And I think more than anything, I'm just continuously checking, where is my focus? Is it on things that I can do something about? What do I have control over and what don't I? I don't know what to do about the world. I hope that collectively we just choose to be more loving and less hateful. I hope that we choose to build each other up and all that good hippie shit, but I absolutely believe it. What I do is turn my focus to my local community. I turn my focus to my writing, to Facebook Live talks, to vlogs, to things that I think potentially help some folks. And whenever I do that, I feel better. All right, let's get through the rest of the animals. Rabbits are those of us who are always making really elaborate plans. One of my favorite things about us is that we're really impatient people. Like, it might have taken me 30, 40, 50 years to get here, but I'd like to be all better by Tuesday if that can be arranged. I want to make up for lost time, which is relatively insane. Rabbits are scriptwriters. They're people who try to predict the future and try to decide how the people in their lives should behave. Rabbits are very good at taking other people's inventories. They're very good at having strong opinions about how other people should live their lives. Owls are perhaps the most challenging of all. Owls are intellectual addicts, and intellectual addicts are our ability to get in our own way as intellectual addicts is unsurpassed. Nobody is better at mind fucking themselves than really smart people who intellectualize. To intellectualize something is really first and foremost to avoid feeling it. We overthink things because it's avoidance. It's a way to treat ourselves as a problem to be solved instead of a person to be loved. Many, many years ago, I made a deal with the very best addictions counselor I ever worked with. She was fantastic and taught me a great deal. I got to teach her some things about mental health, and she taught me some invaluable lessons about addiction and addiction recovery. But the deal we made when she came to work for me was, she said, I want to take the guys from the wrong side of the tracks. You take the lawyers and the bankers and all of those people. And I said, well, I don't mind that deal at all, but do you mind if I ask why? And she said, well, the lawyers and doctors and those kind of people, she's like, they think they're too smart to be an alcoholic. She said, I like the guys from the wrong side of the tracks because they know when they're fucked. One of my favorite books to recommend is The Thinking Person's Guide to Recovery, and it speaks to exactly this dynamic. Sometimes we think that we're so smart that we can think our way into a new way of living, which of course is not true. It's another recovery expression. You can't think your way into a new way of living, you have to live your way into a new way of thinking. So those of us who are owls, we play to our own strong suits. We're smart people, and we somehow embrace the idea that we're going to figure it all out. And I cringe when I hear people talk about figuring it out, because that most often means you're going to spend a lot of time alone inside your own head, which, I mean, is an obvious recipe for disaster. I've enjoyed working with intellectuals over the course of my career. I've worked with some just absolutely legit brilliant people. People at the top of their fields, very, very successful in their businesses or in their fields. And what I found with the intellectual is we really believe that our main problem is that nobody understands us. And if they just understood, then everything would just fall into place, and they, I don't know, wouldn't hold us accountable or something. So working with intellectual alcoholics, I've had to invest like 6, 9, 12 months into just constantly proving over and over and over again, I get it. It's like this, right? And the more I do that, the more excited they get. And it reaches this climax where the person invariably is like, finally, I got somebody that understands me. And I look at them and go, yeah, I totally get you, but you're still fucked because you're an active alcoholic. And as long as you continue to drink, it doesn't really matter how smart you are. I've sat with an awful lot of people who tell me how high functioning they are. And I say, well, you know what happens to your functioning if you keep going? That's the downfall of intellect. The last animal I'll talk about today is Kanga. Kanga is the mama kangaroo from the stories. Kanga is a caregiver. And one of the things that caregivers typically don't know about themselves is that they are very, very angry people. To be a caregiver is to embrace the idea that by avoiding self and sacrificing self, that we're doing something wonderful for others, and deep down what we're really hoping for is that they will do for us as we do for them. And then they don't, because of course we didn't ask them to, and we shot them down when they tried to appreciate us or compliment us, and then we get mad that they just take us for granted like we taught them to. So those are just some of the major pitfalls. I want to be like Pooh. I want to be completely in the moment. I want to keep things simple. I want to have a lot of gratitude. And I want to be open to all possibilities. What I've learned about my plans or setting an agenda for experiences that I'm having is that as soon as I do that, I've ruled out everything that isn't my idea. And my plans continue to suck. My higher powers plans continue to be awesome. And I joke with folks, I still don't get email from God. I'm convinced that there is a connection between what I know intuitively and what I know spiritually. And the more I listen to my gut and the more I stay out of my head, the better everything works. So my higher power most readily communicates to me through the people that my higher power puts in my life. I have amazing people in my life, and I would love to say that, or my ego would love to say, I'm so clever that I went out and developed this amazing support system and have incredible employees and great friends, wonderful chosen family. And the truth is, I didn't find any of them. My higher power put them about right here, because if it's not right here, there's a really good chance I'm going to miss it. So I am grateful to have such folks in my life, and that is what has made all the difference. Just checking comments real quick. Thank you for the praise, Rosie. I really appreciate you. Jilly, you're a piglet. Okay. I hope that I hope you'll get to a place where you can accept that it's okay to be afraid. I hope you notice that anxiety is most often a product of not allowing ourselves to feel what we genuinely feel. If I'm a person who's uncomfortable feeling and expressing anger, that typically will manifest as anxiety. Anything that I'm uncomfortable with, anything that I stuff or bury, tends to manifest as anxiety. It's really as simple as that. I'm a big fan of the Keep It Simple system. So what I know is that if I focus on doing the next right thing, if I allow myself to have tons of support, then things are going to continuously get better. I always encourage folks to consider surrender as a great way to get out of your own way. The third step prayer from AA works really well in that respect. The Serenity Prayer works really well in that respect. But more than anything else, don't be alone with fear. Don't be alone with pain. You don't want that for people that you love, right? You want them. You want to be there for them. When I talk with people in recovery, I often hear, well, I have people that are there if I need them. And I'm like, okay, good news. You need them, like today, like all the time. Because if you're anything like me, I need help on my good days. And I think we think about it as I'll reach out when it gets overwhelming. I'll reach out when I can't do it alone anymore. And I'm convinced that, well, it's terrible to put it this way, but I'm convinced that the things that my higher power really wants me to do alone are very limited. Like, they're primarily things that happen in a bathroom. And maybe a handful of, like, brief times of solitude, spiritual practices, absolutely. And I'm good for, like, a couple hours, and then after that, it's a downhill slope. I get real squirrely real fast. The only thing I'm going to do alone for an extended period of time is be pretty mentally ill and vaguely self-destructive. And on my best days, I'll be self-limiting. When I surround myself with good people, I get to continue growing and healing. I get to have new opportunities, and I get to have joy. Like, I think about that a lot because in the context of the world being a giant dumpster fire, maybe I should just, I don't know, be on the edge of my seat waiting for the next headline, waiting for the next horrible thing that our president will say. No. Actually, I fall back on my all-time favorite author, Tom Robbins. He said, my personal motto has always been joy in spite of everything. Not mindless joy. I recognize the inequities and the suffering of the world. I simply refuse to let it rain on my parade. So I'm going to have a good day no matter what is happening in the world. When things are rough in my world, for me personally, I'm going to keep that in a healthy perspective. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to ask my higher power to help me focus on what I have control over and what I don't. And I'm going to ask my higher power. It's my favorite prayer, actually. I'll be like, look, can you help me not to fuck this up? Or can you save my ass once again? And those two prayers get really good responses. So, we're going to wrap it up real shortly here. I really want to connect with you. There's a number of cool ways we can do that. The easiest one is jim@sobernow.com. Would love to hear your questions or your insights. Would love to hear topics, things that you'd like to see talked about in future Facebook Live talks. Would love to have you put a like and a share on this video. We want to expand these conversations and reach folks who are struggling at any juncture of recovery, but especially folks who are early on. I would love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you head over there real quick and just pull up Sober Now, you'll find our station. It's got about 95 videos now on different topics relating to recovery from substance use disorder, but also recovery from trauma, from mental health, from all the things that people like me tend to struggle with. And finally, would love to have you check out our site, sobernow.com. Right now, for the time being anyway, this will change shortly. We have a lifetime subscription that's available to you, and we'll include a lot of exclusive content that's we're constantly generating new stuff. But right now there's also a couple of home study programs on Sober Now. You're free to choose as a person who needs help with addiction recovery, or as a person who is an affected other, those of us who have a loved one in active addiction. Those courses are available to you with complete anonymity. Like, I literally don't even need to know your name for you to get access to the program. I know for a lot of us, there's stigma, there's shame, there's guilt. And then for some of us, there's actually obstacles like we can't afford a diagnosis professionally, or for whatever reason. So we've designed the program so that you can set up a fake email account, go to Sober Now, get everything set up, and then you have a home study program that you can do at your own pace with complete confidentiality. So we'd love to have you check that out. More than anything, please take excellent care of yourselves. The world needs your love and your light. And please reach out to each other. And if you're struggling, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear